Corey Lewandowski live here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Hey, Corey, great to have you, man.
Hey, John. Good morning. How are you?
Good. Lots to talk about. I'll see you next week, obviously, and thank you for hosting that for me, Corey. Very nice of you. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, John. And look, we've got to have a great delegation going to North Carolina to support this president. And, you were there at the very beginning 5 years ago, John. And so it's the least I can do, and don't let anybody ever say I didn't do the least I could for someone.
That's true, Corey. Hey, look, we've been friends a long time and been there from the beginning. You were there, Corey, day one, January 2nd, 2015, when you turned on the lights in your office. You had one desk, and I believe wires were hanging down from the ceiling, and it was a cement floor, and it was dark, basically, and I think you had a phone. That was about it. That's how you started the Trump campaign 2015, January 2nd. With a phone and a desk. Unbelievable.
John, it was so old school, we actually had a hardline telephone, if that can tell you anything. Okay, that people actually used to call and say, hey, we want to help Trump. And we had a receptionist who sat outside as we progressed and answered the phone line every day, if you can believe it. I mean, who does that these days? Nobody, right? It was like a real company for a while. It was pretty fun.
I know. It was pretty funny. The first day I went in there was March of 2015. You've been there a couple of months, and the one thing I never got over was cement floors. Like, there was no flooring, there was cement, and there was wires were hanging all over the ceiling. There was no ceiling stuff. It was just wires. It was pretty funny. Anyway, long time ago. Corey, let's get to the primaries tonight in Michigan. Biden, I look at the polls, up by 20, 30, 40 points. He's going to win tonight in Michigan. Everybody coalescing behind Joe Biden. Is it the end for Bernie tonight?
I hope it's not, to be honest with you. I hope that the Trump supporters out there do the right thing and support Bernie Sanders in some of these states that are open primaries. And the reason for that is because we want to see this Democratic primary continue on all the way to their convention. Remember 4 years ago, John, Donald Trump didn't lock up the nomination until May. So this is still fairly early in the process. Mm-hmm. So in those states that have open primaries where you can go in and pull the ballot for anybody you want, maybe some of those people decide that they want to keep Bernie in this race a little longer. We would not be opposed to that.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight. I mean, he's got a big lead. Look, everybody is assuming Biden's going to be the nominee. If he wins Michigan tonight, it's over. But here's what I've been saying all day. I think it's short-term gain, long-term pain. I mean, they really not understood how dreadful a candidate this guy is. I mean, he's going to meetings. He's speaking for 6 minutes off a teleprompter, Corey. They whisk him out. No town hall meetings, no questions from anybody. It was going to state. He's got his surrogates out there, but he's had no scrutiny. I mean, how long can that go on with Biden?
Well, John, the truth is that they are now going to put him on what we call the Tahiti strategy, right? They're going to bury Joe Biden. They're going to put him in Tahiti. They're going to throw some ads up for him, but they don't want him exposed. And my guess is Joe Biden has no interest in doing presidential debates. Joe Biden has no interest in doing additional debates with Bernie Sanders. But I think there's a couple more of these still scheduled, and that's really what took down Michael Bloomberg. His $800 million or $600 million or billion or whatever he spent all fell apart when he ended up on that debate stage.
Right.
And Bernie Sanders against Joe Biden one-on-one is not going to save the Biden campaign. And what that means is they want to keep Joe Biden hidden. They don't want him anywhere but on the teleprompter right now. Mm-hmm. And so because of those issues, Joe's going to have a pretty decent night tonight. But this race is not over because even if Joe takes a big lead in the delegates, Bernie Sanders has a very, very dedicated following. He still has the ability to raise money, and I believe he's going to go all the way to the convention. And that being said, Joe Biden could very easily fall apart on the next debate stage.
That is possible. We'll see what happens. I think, though, a very poor showing, Corey, by Bernie tonight in Michigan after he won that state in a big upset last time. The swing state, one of the ones he's promising he can be competitive in, I don't think bodes well. Let's get to the coronavirus. The president yesterday at the press conference in D.C. saying that he was going to go to Congress today with an economic stimulus package that include a payroll tax cut, also increasing liquidity for small businesses and the SBA. The Democrats meeting that with rejection, saying they got their own plan. Look, we're in the middle of a crisis. Why don't they just sit down and meet with the president and try to do something on a bipartisan basis?
Because, John, they don't actually want to solve the problem is the issue. They want to politicize this problem. We've seen it now from the media. We've seen it from the Democrats. And they want to draw attention away from people like, Schumer, who's attacking Supreme Court justices and has no recourse for that. There's been nothing that has happened. Now, we've seen that Josh Hawley has filed a piece of legislation to actually hold him accountable for it. But, the truth is the Democrats have nothing. And so whatever the president is putting forth, they just want to dismiss. The president has come up with a good short-term economic boost to everyday people, which is if you're working on an hourly wage, we're going to protect you. If we're going to give you a payroll tax. And look, there's more I think that we can do. Maybe we talk about reinstituting the home mortgage deduction. But what I do think is important here, John, is that we've got a team of smart economic advisors giving the president their best advice right now on how to help solve what seems to be becoming more and more of a crisis, although the Dow's up 1,000 points early today. So let's see.
Do you feel that the Democrats and the fake news media is taking this virus, this outbreak, and weaponizing it against Trump?
100% they are. Look, that's not even a question. And they're doing that because they know that this president has created economic stimulus for every socioeconomic category on the planet. And if they can draw that down, then they think it's a path to success in an election year.
It's amazing to me that we were asking the question earlier. I just want to get your take on it. One of my callers asking the question earlier at the 6 a.m. hour. If the same exact thing happened, everything was the exact same, and Barack Obama was president or Hillary Clinton was president, what would be different in the way the media is talking about this?
Well, what they would not have done, as you know, John, is they would not have called this, Obama's virus. They would not attack his staff, meaning Obama's staff. What they would do is say the president acted swiftly, which is what this president actually did. They would say that he has a team of experts, which this president does. They would say that appointing the vice president, who's a former congressman and governor, to oversee this is a smart decision, which, obviously this president did. It's a hypocrisy of the media that your listeners now have seen time and time and time again, and that's why their credibility is down in the single digits somewhere, because you can't believe anything they say. Look, when you turn on MSNBC and Brian Williams and the woman from the New York Times said that Michael Bloomberg could have given $1 million to every person in America, right? And they said, well, hey, and there's no scrutiny for it. John, if I say that I went through the light and it was green and I actually happened to be yellow, it's the front page news on the New York Times.
That was a moronic statement, and it really goes to show you what you're dealing with when they can't even do basic math or move a decimal. John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Corey Lewandowski. Corey, now a senior strategic advisor for Trump 2020 campaign. Corey, how is this going to affect Trump's chances for re-election?
Well, look, we have a strong record of accomplishments over the last 3+ years. We've seen a boom in the economy. We've seen bad trade deals renegotiated. We've seen the rebuilding of our military. We've seen our strategy, which has been America first, not America alone, but America first, work for the last 3 years. And there are more people working today than ever. And, John, what has been swept under the rug continues to be the strong unemployment numbers that this country has. We're at 3.5% national unemployment. And I know we talk about it because if we don't, nobody does. 3.5% unemployment means full employment in this country. It means everybody who wants a job has a job. And that doesn't even count the people who were off the rolls under the Obama years who just stopped looking for a job. It doesn't count the $2 trillion which has been repatriated or brought back to the U.S. shores for investments. It doesn't count all of the things that this president has put in place so that these strong numbers continue, that's what we have to run on. Now, we have to be very careful, John. I flew on an airplane this morning, and I have to tell you, the airport was very sparse compared to what it normally is. There was no line at the taxi cab stand or the Uber stand or the, Lyft pickup location, which is a little surprising to me because I understand the severity of the coronavirus. I do. And look, I'm just a rank and file, average old white guy who makes a living flying on airplanes all around the place. But look, there are precautions that people have to take, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but a good part of this is making sure that you're being smart and diligent with cleanliness, and that's a big part of this because what we know is that this is being spread via germs. So maybe you're not shaking people's hands right now. Maybe if you've got a cough or a sneeze that's consistent, you're not out flying on airplanes and in confined places. But that is common sense, John. Look, I'll tell you this. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was with a member of the Trump family, and we were attending a rally. And he said, you know what? I went to go shake a guy's hand, and the guy said, hey, don't shake my hand. This was weeks ago. He says, don't shake my hand because I've got a cold. And the member of the family said, you know what? I'd rather hug that guy for him telling me that than all the other people who knew they were sick and were trying to infect me anyways. And I agree with that.
Right.
I mean, who wants to be taking and touching people who know that they're sick?
Right. No, you're right. Look, I know you advise the president. You talk to him almost on a daily basis. What is your advice now in the way he's handling this?
Look, I think what we have to do is my recommendation is always over-communicate. And I think the vice president has been doing a very good job on that. We saw the president at the press conference yesterday talking directly to the American people. But I think what we have is a lot of disinformation coming out from members of the media who have known that for the last 3 years they've been unable to really impact this president in the negative manner that they've wanted. So the president, the vice president need to continue the educational component of where things stand, where the updates are. Obviously, the vice president is continuing to educate and talk with the governors around the country, and the president is continuing to work with the CDC and a number of other government agencies who are working on this literally around the clock. So I think it's important, right? And I think the over-communication from the administration is the key to success here.
Vice President in charge of the task force, he's having a press conference every day. It's between 5 and 6 o'clock, right at the White House in the press briefing room. It's on camera. I don't see how this administration can be more transparent about what is going on. But look, I had a caller earlier who said something that I've written down. He said, what we need is prudence, not panic. What do you think of that?
I think that's right, John. Look, nobody wants to be infected by this.
Right.
It goes back to being smart, being diligent. If you're sick, don't go and infect everybody else. Look, my kids all go to a public school in New Hampshire, right? That place has traditionally been a petri dish. My kids come home and one of them gets sick 2 days later. The next kid in my house gets sick 3 days after that. The next one's throwing up. And it was all caused because some parent either sent their child to school or didn't know the kid was sick. And that's how it spreads. And that's no different than influenza A or influenza B. The difference is here, obviously it's a very severe thing, particularly for people who are older, particularly for people who have immune deficiencies. But I'm not an expert on the topic, John, but I would think a healthy 35, 40, 50-year-old who has no history of chronic illness who contracts this is going to not die because of it, because their immune system continues to fight this off. And I think, just like when you have a significant flu, some people have the ability to get a flu shot. But if you remember, there were two strands of the flu this year, influenza A and influenza B. They only treated for one, and the second one was much more severe. Now, we hear about it all the time, people getting sick and die from the flu, but it's not traditionally average, normal immune system functioning people who are between the ages of, call it, 5 years old and 75 years old.
Right.
Usually affects others there. And I think, and again, I'm not an expert, people have to take that into consideration and take a deep breath. And I know all of a sudden everybody's canceling everything. I'm not saying it's the right thing or it's the wrong thing, but I think we have to be smart and going into a panic and sheltering in place in your home for 14 days or a month doesn't sound like a rational solution to me.
Dr. Fauci, head of the CDC, said it's likely that 50% of the people that contract this virus don't know they have it, and it passes in 3 or 4 weeks. It just passes like you pass the flu. So, I mean, when you hear those numbers, and you also know that 38,000 people died in the United States in 2019 due to the flu, you kind of understand this is a strain that's got to be dealt with. And again, prudence, not panic. The Saudis dropping oil 20% now to compete with Russia, increasing production. A lot of people said that really was the instigator of the crash yesterday. Now the market is coming back. So let me ask you another thing on this, Corey. When the stock market goes down in the past month here over the virus, I mean, it has been all over the news 24/7. It's like the end of the world. Now it's going to be the second time where the next day it went up and gained everything back, if not more. And there's not a peep out of the fake news media. They don't even cover it.
Well, John, that goes back to when this president, and I don't know what the exact number is, under his tenure since being elected, the Dow's hit, 300 new highs in the last 4 years almost, something astronomical. It's been up huge, almost zero coverage to it, literally zero. I mean, literally the jobs report that came out this week was a blip on the radar screen that literally received under 30 seconds of news coverage on the major television networks. So when the Dow is up, they don't want to report that because they know it's going to help the president's narrative that the economy is doing well. When it's down, boom, right after the president, free fall, panic, the whole thing. We saw a week ago, Monday, the Dow was up 1,250 points, the largest single gain in data ever at the Dow. Then the next day it drops and it's up again, 800 points, and it drops again. Yesterday was a terrible day in the market. Don't kid yourself. The Dow lost about 7.8%, almost 8% of the overall value, down 2,000. And today, the futures say it's up 1,000 right now. So, look, the other thing I want to say, John, is you lose money on paper, and you make money on paper when you are in the stock market. Mm-hmm. So, I understand, and believe me, I'm one of these guys who's got 4 kids to put through college, so I'm not diminishing the crazy ride that the stock market has been on lately. But the truth is, I have no interest in taking my money out of the market right now, or tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that. Traditional investors like me are long-term investors who are looking for the opportunity when their kids are going to college to be able to withdraw some of that money. In my case, and I think it's very well known, my oldest is in the 7th grade. So I've got about 5 years before I'm looking to extract that money from the stock market. 5 years ago, when Donald Trump won and started this race, I had a lot less money in the market than I did today.
Right.
And so there are ups and downs, and I don't remember what the market did in March of 2018 or in June of 2019, right? I don't know, but everyone's making the deal about it today. But look, it's time to take a deep breath. It's time to remember that I didn't actually have that money that was on the paper. I guess, in theory, I could have gone and taken it out, but I didn't because that's not what my goal is. My goal is long-term investing and having a plan, and I think most people, unless you're retiring yesterday, are going to say, I don't need the money today. Let's leave it here. And by the way, every person who engages in a professional investor or someone, they know that as you mature in age, your portfolio becomes less risk averse. So you go into bonds, you go into things that aren't as risky because of potential opportunities like this. If you're 10 years old and your parents or your grandparents leave you a trust fund, it can be a very aggressive investment because you've got 70 years potentially being in the market.
Right.
When you're 60 or 70 years old, you've really reduce that risk, and potentially you're in bonds and things that don't have as much volatility to them. So, let's hope that people recognize the pros and cons of that whole investment strategy.
Well, Corey, I got to tell you this. There's a radio station I've been trying to buy, and I've been negotiating it for about 12 months, back and forth, just couldn't get it done. Yesterday, 10:45 a.m., market crashed. I got the deal done. So I'm with you on that. I'm investing in that market because, look, this is not to make light of it, but it comes and goes. This too shall pass. I think the president's doing an outstanding job in managing it, and hopefully everybody's going to be all right. But look, the economy is booming, and so you have a bad day, people panic. But for me, a deal I've been working on 12 months, I got it done yesterday at noon. So,
well, congratulations, John. That's great. And look, again, I'm not here to give professional investing advice.
Of course.
I'm just a grundoon who doesn't know anything about anything.
Same here.
Growing up poor.
Same here.
Grow up poor. What you know is it's good to save, is what I knew growing up poor because I didn't have any money.
Right.
But I think for some people, unfortunately, these are opportunities to go and pursue things that maybe you couldn't get done 4 months ago or 5 months ago or 6 months ago, or revisit something. I don't know. But, I think of everything as a potential opportunity.
Right.
And congratulations on getting the deal done, John. Maybe it's because of the way the market was, or maybe it's just that these people realize that you're a monster on the radio and they want to, give you a bigger airwave.
Corey Lewandowski, thanks for being with us. I'll take the latter rather than the former. Great radio economic analysis by Corey Lewandowski. Brilliant, Corey. John Fredericks Radio Network.
Thank you, John.